In our community spotlight tonight, we meet an organization that is providing adults with disabilities a path to inclusion and a meaningful life. Michael Thomas is the executive director of My Possibilities, and he joins us in studio tonight. Michael, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, you are helping hipsters.
Yeah.
Who are the hipsters?
Yeah, it's a fun term. Hipster for us is very different than the rest of the world, how they perceive it. For us, hugely important person. So the hip part of hipster is an acronym that kind of helps provide value and identity within a typically cold medical client consumer type world. So for us, hipsters are all the people that we serve. And our guys and girls, they love identifying themselves to you as, I'm a hipster at My Possibilities. So it's just a term that we took on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So walk us through the different services you offer these adults, because it's quite extensive.
Yeah, the reality is post high school, services and needs for this population, they don't just magically disappear, but unfortunately from a funding perspective, they're really hard to find. The biggest one is continued programming and education. So when they graduate high school, the ability to continue learning. So that's the big part of our world. There's job training, job placement services. So we help our guys get jobs and then we coach them once they have them. But then there's also therapeutic services like speech pathology, transportation, respite activities over the weekends. I mean, we're trying to be kind of a comprehensive service organization for the individual and their family.
That's great, because the need is great.
Yep.
And families on their own really can't provide all those services.
No, in fact, it's not healthy for the individual or the family for them to be all of those things for everybody, because people need meaningful relationships. They need engagement in the community outside. This population in general just needs a little more support and pathway to get there.
So talk about how your organization got started.
Yeah, so across the country, there's a similar sort of theme. Any place that there are families that have children with disabilities, but not a lot of programming, it always starts with really type A moms. We had all three of them had children getting ready to graduate out of the school system. And the school system told them, hey, you need to go look for what's next. And then, naively, we're just, okay, sounds good, we'll go look. And then after they went and looked, came back, sat down at a Starbucks, and literally on a Starbucks napkin that we have framed in our building, kind of drew out the framework for what would be a building and a program that they would feel comfortable with their kids going to and continuing learning and developing those meaningful relationships.
That's great. Your website is mypossibilities.org, mypossibilities.org is where people can go and check out your site. What do you see? What is your particular role at My Possibilities?
Yeah, it's funny. I used to say behind the curtain, and then I found that I get to come out in front of the curtain quite often to talk about the work that we do. So as executive director, I'm kind of beholden to all facets of the organization. So while a lot of that has to deal with quality programming and developing staff and finding great staff, there's also the funding piece of it. And the state covers about 40 to 50% of our actual cost. And so then you have to go out and raise money through the community for the balance. It's a little bit of everything. It's people, Sure. It's programming, it's fundraising, juggling a lot of plates.
That's a very important role for sure. Now, you're currently working on building a campus or building this whole environment. How's that process going?
Yeah, really well. Everything that we do, our hipsters sort of push us in the direction of. So we don't sit around in a room by ourselves and go, here's what we should do for people with disabilities. They tell us what they want and what they expect from the world, and we try and help, design to that. So years ago, we asked them kind of what's next, and a lot of our hipsters had friends and siblings and cousins who were all going to college. And they said, we want to go to college, and would love for the college world to understand how to do that. But the reality is there's a huge gap there. So we said, okay, instead of having an isolated building that we're teaching within, we should build a campus and provide that higher education experience. And we started that pathway back in 2016. And our second building is underway here this month, literally within the next week. And it's going to be predominantly focused on job training. So think of it as a business school, but for people with disabilities who are looking for a pathway into customer service or retail or culinary arts. So that building will complete the first two on our campus.
That's quite an undertaking, because it's not just the physical structure, it's getting the instructors to come in as well.
And that's That is the underrated component. If there's a secret sauce, and it's not really secret because I try and tell everybody, the staff at our organization, that's it. Like, you can have pretty buildings and you can fundraise all day long, but if you can't find passionate people who are talented and want to bring their talents to support this population, you just don't have the same quality of programs.
So you got the college campus you're working on, and you also have another facility in the Garland area as well.
Yep. So in Garland, we have about 180 acres, and we purchased that years ago to develop a residential community. And the challenge in the disability space is the vast majority of adults with disabilities live with mom and dad. And then when the time comes when mom and dad are no longer there, their whole system's uprooted. They have to move. Whether it's a sibling or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle. Typically, that's the removal of their programming, their social network, their job if they have one, the place that they live. It's not just dealing with the loss of a parent, it's dealing with the loss of everything. So we're trying to figure out how can we develop a residential community that is fully inclusive, universally designed, so you can buy a home there and live next door to three amazing, adults with autism or Down syndrome, and develop a community where all of the amenities and the sidewalks and everything there is built and designed for anybody to be able to navigate. So that's moving forward here very soon.
And so I'm just curious, does insurance kick in and help? I know you're doing fundraising, you got state funded, but for the adults you're helping, is it insurance provided, or how does that work?
Insurance will only cover a handful of small services, things like speech and language pathology. But even then, for the most part, it typically kicks back over to Medicaid, state funding type thing. And unfortunately, out of the 51 identified state entities, Texas is about 48th, 49th in funding for dollar per person spent. And the current wait list in Texas is anywhere between 16 and 20 years, depending on who you talk to. Wow. So, yeah, it's a challenge.
Well, that leads me to my final question for you.
Sure.
I got it less than a minute, but how can viewers get involved and come alongside and help?
Yeah, the beauty is we need support on every single level, whether it's a corporation looking to employ people with disabilities. We want to help the company figure out how to do that. If someone's looking to donate or get involved on a volunteer or financial perspective, they can do that as well. And if they're looking to work and they want to have meaningful engagement and career, all of the above, they can go straight back to the website at mypossibilities.org and connect with us there, and we'll help get them plugged in.
Man, Michael, great organization. I appreciate you being on the show today and sharing that with us. And, it's things that you may not be thinking about. Maybe you don't have a loved one or a friend that's living with disabilities, but it's certainly something we all need to get involved in as a community. Stick around. You are watching Create, Build, and Manage Daily.